And while you at it peeping this shit, go ahead to youtube.com/WaterWaveTV and subscribe to that shit. Yeah, you know the waves in it. Baseball, we're hitting a home run, hit it with the coldest rains. And even on my bad days, I'm a clutch to finish. The track diminished, the booth burnt, hands is itching. Damn.
Hector, 1, 2, 3, water wave. Water wave.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to a new WaterWave TV podcast. We got a very special guest in the building, OpTic HECZ, Hector Rodriguez himself. How you doing today? It's early.
Good.
It's a little early.
No, not early for me. It's 11, dude. I've been up for at least 6 hours.
Yeah.
No, I'm lying. I'm capping so hard right now. I got up at 8, so yeah, we're good.
You're usually an early bird?
Absolutely, but I'm also an early sleeper. Like last night, after obviously we got knocked out of the tournament, there was a party afterwards. I woke up this morning to a message from a good friend of mine, one of the co-owners of the Minnesota Rockers, like, "Yo, Seth is here. Your boys are here. Where are you at?" Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I saw the text. It's like 11:55 p.m. I'm like, I've been sleeping. Mm-hmm. You know, like I decided very early on that the one thing that I was never gonna compromise was my sleep. Like I was never like nothing ever was gonna get in the way of me sleeping, right? Like I work as hard as I do to make sure that I'm able to sleep when I want to sleep. It's just I've always been that way. Yeah. My friends in high school, my friends. I mean, I have the same friends as I always have, but we went to Cancun back-to-back years. They partied a bunch, and I was always like, "I'm good. I'm going to bed." That was me. That's always been me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always like nice to be able to shut work off whenever you please, basically. Even if I mean, you could respond to texts here and there, but it's like just being able to put the phone down, especially in the scene that you're in. A lot of it is social media and interaction on the phone, so just be able to sit back and be able to say it's enough for the night.
Yeah, I think I've done a really good job of identifying that social media is literally for the connection part of that and business. If I'm at home, rarely do I open up Twitter. Like I don't tweet a lot. Like it gets to a point to where you're only there to either relay a message, get information, and then go on about your day. There's people out there that spend a bunch of time on there, and that's fine, right? Like that's part of the culture now, so it makes sense. But for me, it's just I don't know. I'm 42 years old, and I know what it was like to live without it, and it was a nice time.
Mm-hmm. Well, once again, thanks for coming on the show. We will get right into what we got to talk about. So you're obviously killing it with the content, vlogs, basically almost every day. You're vlogging every day, maybe not uploading them every day, but vlogging every day. Got the podcast, the OpTic podcast, controlling all of your kids, basically all your players, all your employees.
Yeah.
But there was a time when that wasn't happening. I think I read back, OpTic was kind of starting back in 2006, 2007 time when you kind of took over. What was happening around that time before obviously all this stuff happened that made you be like, I want to start a sniping team and then figure out?
Dude, I was, let me see. Let me backtrace a little bit.
What game was that exactly?
Call of Duty 2 is when I started like seriously playing, like when I got addicted to it. It was in 2005. I was living in the first apartment that my now wife, girlfriend at the time, got together. And I would go, what was I doing? I think I was in the mortgage industry. Hold on. I don't know what I was doing. I think I was, what the fuck was I doing in 2000? Yeah, I was in the mortgage industry. But it wasn't taking off the way that it took off in that short period of time before the market crashed. Mm-hmm. So in those times, it was, what it is today. I would wake up at a certain time. I would go to work. I would get home and I'd play Call of Duty. Same exact thing that's happening now. Mm-hmm. I got my daily routine, which is, content, business meetings, etc. But when I get home, it's either I sit down and draw something or I play video games. And that's what I was doing back then. But back then I was really into painting trains. That's for sure, because I remember having a closet dedicated to just all of my spray paint in that apartment. I was in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, and that's what I would do. Whether it was on a Tuesday, Wednesday, like it didn't matter. If a friend of mine, revised from CMW, if he's watching that, shout out to him. He's the one that took me out of my comfort zone, because I was from the suburbs, northwest suburbs of Chicago. So my exposure to graffiti was limited, and I didn't have the internet back then because it didn't exist. So little by little, I started to get into this like graffiti lifestyle that I fell in love with. To this day, it's like one of the most important things in my life, right? And I don't even do it professionally. What I mean by that is I don't paint illegally anymore. I don't paint trains like I used to. I just draw, but I do keep up with that culture. Like I'm constantly on Instagram. If you go on Instagram, my For You page is all graffiti, and then bass fishing. You'll see a little, booty here and there, but that's from fishing. Because if you search bass fishing, right? If you search bass fishing there, like immediately, like you'll go down the route, and then there's a girl in a bikini. So the algorithm will immediately be like, oh, this dude likes, boobs. And yeah, obviously, right? But it'll start feeding you that shit, and I'm like, fuck, man, I can't. So I reconfigure it by searching for something specifically. But yeah, that's what was going on back then. I played a lot of poker, but as soon as I got Call of Duty 2 and I played it for a week, I was in love with it, man. In love with it. Like you could not get me off of it.
Yeah. And then is Call of Duty 4 your favorite Call of Duty of all time?
Yeah. Well, now Call of Duty Remastered because of the machine. Of the, what do you call it, the game engine.
Yeah,
because and also like they serviced it. They didn't service Call of Duty. I mean, it's serviced now, right? You can get skins, multiple skins. You can make anything look cool. And back then it's like you got what you got, and you have four camos, and one of them is gold if you achieve like prestige or whatever. But back then, nah. And then Modern Warfare Remastered came out, and your M40A3 rifle could be anything you wanted. So it's pretty cool.
Just basically the same game, but just more customization.
Do
you think Call of Duty, when it has all these customization options and like stuff that you basically have to buy to get, do you think that kind of ruins like the stuff you can unlock for doing actually accomplishing things? Like getting 500 headshots, you would get the red tiger or whatever they'd call it back in the day, but but nowadays it's like that's not even the cool one to get. Now it's like unlocking this one that you have to buy a pack for.
Yeah, you know what? I think that there needs to be a little bit of configuration there because people have time to play. I don't have time to play, right? So, but I do have disposable income that I could use to do that. So I'm in a place where like if I can't spend time, let me spend money to get the things that I want to get. If I can't afford to spend hours on end unlocking everything that I want, but I can't afford to pay for it, I should be allowed to do that. And I think that that economic system can work for it. It's just a matter of putting it together in the right way where it makes sense to everyone. Because there are going to be the people that are like, well, I'm out here grinding for camos, and you can just unlock it by paying for it. Like, yeah, that's fair because I'm an adult. I'm 42. I have a family. I have a kid, dogs, employees, and shit. That I gotta take care of. So if I do have that, then I should be able to apply that.
Yeah, makes sense. Talking about more of how OpTic grew since 2007, a big thing for you guys was like the team houses. You guys were hitting that niche at the perfect time. It's not as popular as it used to be back in the day. I don't know exactly why it goes like that, but for that first at the 6050 Russell Drive, was that the first team house? Yeah. Correct. What was like the atmosphere like in there? I remember you guys have opened up about it now, how it used to be dirty, or you go in there'd be weed trays everywhere. But like, what was like just like going in there and that time period compared to like I guess like the HQ nowadays? Like, what are the vibes like in there?
Everything's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah, I mean it's not as messy, and you got to realize, right? Like back then, team houses didn't exist in Korea specifically, and those that sort of area existed, but then Envy had a house in North Carolina before we did, but they were like a training center more than anything. Like I don't think they created any sort of content, but for us it was a matter of creating content first, right? Like we were gonna train and not we, but the players were gonna train and practice for their competitions, but at the same time, like the thing and the way to make money back then was through videos. So we all got together and we're like, yo, listen, we're already practicing together. Why not, focus on content? Obviously, OpTic was a content-driven team from the second that I put my hands on it. It was a content-driven team. Call it, early Call of Duty 4, right? That's when we started. So by the time that we got to the house, it was Black Ops 2. Right, so there was a period of time, there was like 3 to 4 years where we were building this audience, and when we had 350,000 subscribers on OpTic Nation, that's when we stepped back into competitive, and that's when Nadeshot came in 2010, and then shortly thereafter, like two years of working the system and working the YouTube, Nadeshot became big enough to where we said, all right, let's all get together into a house. You guys are gonna practice and compete, but we're gonna record it and we're gonna create this sort of content. So yeah, for us it was all about, you know, making a living off of something that we like doing. And the second that I found out that you could make money off of YouTube, that's when I'm like, all right, I'm gonna force these kids to make YouTube videos so that they can put money in their pockets and they don't have to rely on winning tournaments to make ends meet. And that's where the story began.
Fire. And you definitely bred a lot of. I mean, obviously, Nate Shot himself is a
$400 million company.
Yeah, like,
you know what I mean.
Definitely.
And look at FaZe, right? Like they have a $1 billion company, and it's all from the OpTic model, right? Like it's something that we developed very early on that other sniper teams sort of became like interested in. FaZe comes in and does like all the new shit. We took a competitive approach while still, you know, in a personality approach to it. While FaZe, Tommy, and all the early dudes like were all about trick shotting and bringing the skateboarding brand into, or the skateboarding lifestyle into this thing, and yeah, they became who they became. And if you think about the amount of people that have been inspired by FaZe, that are inspired by OpTic, like we changed it. The gaming industry changed YouTube for the better, right? Like in my days, in the early come up, there was no, like, I didn't make money for 2 years on YouTube. It was all word of mouth. It was a creative outlet for me since I was working at a bank or in a mortgage company, and I couldn't paint trains and run the risk of, you know, being put in jail and losing my job because I have a felony, or I have a hit on my record. So while trying to be a corporate dude because I wanted to provide for myself and my family, I also was, you know, doing bad shit that could have put me in jail, right? And it was all because I loved painting my name on shit. So for me, it was like this thing where I needed to let my creativity go somewhere, and it was editing and, you know, word of mouth, right? Spreading the Call of Duty gospel.
And you still edit a lot of your videos today. I know you got editors and cameramen now, but I do see you edit a lot of vlogs yourself.
All my vlogs, yeah.
You edit your podcast a little bit too when you're on the road, or you send those
No,
out?
that's Maddie. Yeah, shout out to Maddie. That's my right hand man. That dude does it all. He's like a Swiss Army knife of things. A little bit like me, right? Like I don't just do one thing, and that could be a detriment, but it could also be like a powerful tool. And for me, it's been the latter. I think it's a powerful tool that I'm interested in so many things, and I'm able to sort of concentrate enough to be able to make, you know, jobbies out of my hobbies.
Would you ever buy the 6050 Russell House back again if you could see a reason to, I guess?
Yeah, you know, I've thought about it, but so yes. The answer is yes. My wife and I have thought about buying the 6050 house and the Russell, the McAlpin one, the Scuff house. But like, for what, right? Like if we can't have people visit it, if we can't create a museum in there, why do it? Because it's not going to be cool for the neighbors, right? Like the neighbors, they have lives, right? Like I can't in my right mind put everybody in this like uncomfortable position where there's people coming from, like, I know how I was as a kid, right? I know how I was as a young adult, and I wasn't responsible, and I didn't care about other people's shit. Obviously, I painted it everywhere. So for me to turn those things into a museum allows for a lot of foot traffic, allows for a lot of traffic in those neighborhoods, and I just don't want to disturb that peace. Peace to me is like the number one thing, right? Like just living life, not bothering anyone, and not getting bothered. So I wouldn't do that. I've thought about it for sure, but no.
Yeah, just having that real reason why. Like, obviously, it would be dope to like have ownership of that and do whatever the fuck you want with it. But like, obviously, there's neighbors and other lives around it. So
and where does it stop, right? Like, all right, I'm collecting. I collect a lot of shit already, right? Start collecting homes. Jesus Christ, like, it's expensive. I don't know. Just doesn't seem doesn't make any rhyme or reason.
Yeah. You did a lot of podcasts with people that lived in that house, but what is like your favorite memory from that time period?
Well, which period?
6050.
From 6050, it's the like one specific memory, or just like the feeling in general?
Yeah, I guess feeling. What would you always walked in there and someone would do something that would just be like, make your day better? I don't know. What was like?
I mean, hanging out with my friends, man, every day. And look, I still have the same friends that I have in high school today, right? And to me, that's just like, I don't know if it's me, I don't know if it's the type of person that I am, but I've always liked to be around, you know, people that sort of, I don't know. I became friends with people who were way younger than me that I have no business being friends with. In any other lifestyle, I would never be friends with Nate. Nate's like 15, 13 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I couldn't be friends with somebody like that. We have nothing in common, but we found commonality in the gaming and YouTube and this digital business that we sort of all fell in love with and worked towards. So for me, like every single moment that we have there, and I get like little bits and pieces of like memory that I just continue to sort of unlock as we're going through it. And like everything about that house, man, was like a magical thing. Mm-hmm. It was a humble home. This was before massive mansions were being like sort of given to creators to live in. I don't know. It to me, it was like it represented what OpTic is, right? Like OpTic is not this like mega hype sort of beast brand. It's not this, you know, cheap brand, right? Like we're right in the middle. We're Midwestern dudes that happen to relate to the majority of the people because, you know, as much as I like fashion, as much as I like, you know, nice things, like I come from a regular place. Nate worked at McDonald's, right? Like that, these sort of commonalities that we've been able to find with our audience has been like, I think, the driving force behind everything that we do. Mm-hmm. So for me, you know, the humble 60-50, and it's a nice house. Don't get me wrong; it's a $300,000 house.
I just checked; it's up to 420.
420.
I just checked. I googled it just to see. Like,
400 and what?
420,000.
Yeah, 420. Shout out 420. What's up?
It does have the housing market has gone up.
Yeah, I mean it's Illinois, but Illinois sucks, right? Like Illinois has like the taxes, not my thing, right? Like Frisco has had the same sort of growth trajectory from a what do you call it? From a housing market perspective, but whatever. I mean, the funnest memory for me, man, would just be like us laughing our asses off every single. There was never a dull moment. Even when Seth and Scump or you know, there was fights going on. Like to Seth and Nate, not Seth and Scump, the same person, but like even those days were like they weren't unbearable, right? Like they were still part of the process. So
yeah. Living with a bunch of guys, you're gonna have arguments.
Yeah, especially like a bunch of guys that thrive on being popular. Mm-hmm. So ego gets in the way. Ideas get like, this is my idea. It's like, no, it's not. It's my idea. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. Yeah, but for me, like every single moment there, and luckily we were smart enough to be able to record all that. And, you know, even if you're not putting it on the internet, you should still record it. If I had that in high school, like, man, I would love to have those memories. I would love to have like the first time that I went fishing on camera so I can experience that, so I can share that. And I don't. But now that all of this is easily accessible, man, we didn't have phones. The cellular phones were just coming up when I was in high school, dude. So camera phones, like, think about it, right? Like it's almost a duty to be able to record, so you have to record. If you're not recording everything that you're doing, your family, your family gatherings and all that, like you're doing yourself a disservice. You're gonna regret not doing that. So
some of my favorite memories from that time definitely was when you did the Mexican candy.
Mexican
taste.
candy? Yeah.
And
how old were you? How old are you now?
I'm 23.
23. So you were super young when you were.
That shit had me dying. Like all the players, just like the reactions to it, like Crim 6 and Formal back in the day, and then obviously that like viral video of was it you that woke up Nate Shot in his off his air mattress and the face and all the pranks they would do, dumping the water on Flame Sword. And honestly, like another thing that stuck out was like you guys hosted that LAN party for like Advanced Warfare, I believe. I'm pretty sure me and my friends were watching that in high school, like freshman class or some shit. Like, what's
crazy about that is that, you know, Activision spends a lot of money on advertising and launching their games, and they had just had Gamescom. Gamescom in Germany was they had like I believe like 103,000 people watching the reveal of that game. I don't even remember which game it was, but they asked us to unveil the esports side of it. So we're like, sure. So Activision has a ton of money. Like, think about what it took to fly people over there to Germany, the people that had to go there, their hotels. And then on top of that, putting all the advertising money that they had to build the sets and all this shit. I'm talking, $5, $6, $7 million, who knows, to get 100,000 people watching, right? Here we are at the at the OpTic House with a $1,500 computer, a $100 webcam, and fucking people that live there already, their Xboxes versus another team that was there visiting. No more than a $5,000 investment because we had to pay Benson to be there, etc. Right? And we got up to 90,000 viewers. And if we would have waited an hour more, we would have caught the West Coast people who would have been out of school back then, and we would have kicked over that. Right? So it's not necessarily about the money, which is why I encourage people to just do the thing. You don't need like all the expensive shit that people are doing. As long as it sounds good enough to listen and it looks good enough to watch, it's good enough for the internet, right? So, yeah,
a lot of legendary shit happened in that time.
Oh yeah,
which explains why you guys pioneered everything you did. So as more time goes on, back then competitions was a lot of MLG, UMG, COD, XP, all that stuff was like, there's a lot of all these other ones doing it, and then they moved into the COD World League and now the CDL. But I guess before we get into that, you guys had a few major accomplishments along the way, like the X Games. I think I just heard on your last podcast, you guys were talking about how hard it was to walk and stuff around there. Was it because it was like an outdoor event instead of it being indoors? There's a lot of walking around.
Yeah, I mean, we were like in a tent, in like a circus tent.
Yeah, and it was like hot, right? With like
it wasn't hot there. It wasn't hot there. It wasn't hot inside. But outside, bro, it was like 114. Like, it was bad. And we had to walk, like, not only did you have to walk, call it a mile, right, from where we were at to the exit, but from the exit to the Ubers was like another mile. And then on top of that, like, once you got in an Uber or the Uber area to find a fucking Uber, your Uber, like, you had to sit in the sun and wait, right? So it was a good time. It was worth it, right? Like, we won back-to-back gold medals. But
if not the X Games, what accomplishment off competition is your biggest accomplishment? Man,
I'm gonna have to say our first one. I think it was Orlando or Ohio or Columbus, 2011. Because bringing a championship to what was then like a couple of bricks being formed in the green wall was, I say that, but we had like 300,000 by that we had 400,000 subscribers. So the green wall was massive from the beginning, right? It is that, but to see them sort of in person cheer and be happy with that we won was like amazing. I mean, look, we're still doing it to this day. That's the addicting part, right? Like making sort of the right moves and connections to get a winning team is not as easy as it looks, right? Because we're not just building teams for championships. We're building teams that can win championships but are also going to be entertaining to the masses. Because we entertain them one weekend, 3 weekends a month. That's not enough. Like, they need to see daily shit or every other day. Yeah. So for me, it was like, I could go out and get, all of the people that are, massively good. And we're seeing that right now, right? Like, we're seeing that with all the people that are bringing up, up and comers, like all the challenger players that are playing now. Like, we see that. But for me, like, I couldn't do that. Like, I could never pick up somebody that's, well, maybe now we can because we build a brand. But when we were building a brand, there was no choice for me than to pick up people who were going to be good on camera. So even back in the early days, I could have been like, Nadeshot was really good, right? Obviously, pro player level good. But, at the time we had to like sort of piece together people that were going to be good on camera more than they were going to be people that, won championships. How easy would it have been for me to pick up all three of those dynasty teams to come play for OpTic when the green wall gives you nothing but the love? Super easy, right? Like, we would have been able to offer the money that they would have, needed. But I don't run that program. I run my program the way that I run it because it's working, right? For me, getting a championship is, not necessarily secondary, but it's definitely as important as content where other people are like we're only here to win.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the wrong thing to think.
Yeah, that's one thing I think, because there's 12 teams in the CDL, but like I'd say like strictly off the players that make content, OpTic is way ahead of all of them. You even got like the Atlanta FaZe, but even like the competitors, like they don't make content like the FaZe has a content team.
Yeah.
And I like how you structured your team is like if you're competing, if you're in OpTic, you're also making content. Like everybody that's on the competition team, Hitch, even Embos, like Maniac, like everyone, like it's a very small like family, but everybody makes content rather than like if you look at like a team like FaZe, they have a whole side of them that it's like content. These guys are YouTubers, and then these guys are competitors, and they don't make content.
Yeah.
I even talked to like Simp yesterday about it a little bit, about how they don't really associate too much with the FaZe Clan brand as Atlanta FaZe. And I was like, it sounded like a little surprising to me. You'd think it would be like a very highly compatible thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you guys are just doing it perfect. And
Well, we took the approach. I took the approach of building, in my opinion, like the perfect hybrid, right? I you know, you look at FaZe, who have done like incredible things as creators, and then you look at Envy, for example, who has done you know, amazing things on the competition side, but not on the, you know, there's a bet. I said I'm gonna be right in the middle. I'm gonna do both, right? I'm gonna be the perfect hybrid of competition and content creation, and the only way to do that was to turn the pros into content creators instead of the content creators into pros. That just doesn't work. You don't have the natural ability to be able to be as good as these dudes, right? So I said, well, that's like the majority of our content creators. Even now, if well, let's say 2017 when I sold OpTic. Up until that point, the majority of our creators, I would say 90% of our creators were all pro players at one point. You can't say that about any other team, right? They have the pro side, and then they have the content side. We were like literally, our content is from the pro side, period. So that's what gave us the leg up, and still to this day, it's giving us a leg up.
yeah, I wanted to ask about that time when you sold OpTic.
Yeah.
Was the CDL rule where if you had the name OpTic in a Call of Duty team, you couldn't have that name in like Overwatch and Valorant? Is that basically was like the main reason behind selling the team?
No.
But was that a rule that the CDL made, or what? Like,
Yeah, look, you can have, the CDL co-owns these brands with you.
Okay.
Right? And I'm not going to give them ownership over OpTic Gaming, right? I put in all this work. They don't get to just that. But it's a different name, right? It's OpTic Texas.
Yeah.
OpTic Chicago, right? It's a different name. It's a different company. We just licensed the name OpTic to this company in perpetuity, or you know what, however usually that's how it's done, and they can own on that, right? They can own a part of that, but they couldn't own a part of the mothership. Like that just doesn't make sense. So from the beginning, I knew that, you know, we were gonna name our team something OpTic. We name everything OpTic, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to because OpTic from Infinite sold to Immortals, and they wanted to just have OpTic be a Call of Duty brand.
Okay.
And that's why they called it the Los Angeles OpTic, right? And for me, like nothing goes before OpTic. OpTic's first always, and anything and everything that we do, OpTic goes first, and we start with the names and the naming of everything that we do. So OpTic Chicago, OpTic HECZ is like, at the end of the day, it don't matter what the secondary name is, right? It's OpTic first, which relates to the culture that we've created around us. And some dude was saying that, what was it? This is just recent, like a couple of months ago. Some dude was complaining that everybody has their city names first, and how we fucked up, and we like, you guys don't even know how to name. I'm like, you think I did that shit on accident? Like, no, I why am I gonna hype up Chicago? Chicago needs no help from anyone to make that popular. And I don't get, we don't benefit from the name Chicago being big. No, we OpTic is what we own, and that's what we're gonna concentrate on. Period. So that's why we do it. That's why we did it the way that we did.
Fire. And you could definitely tell when the ownership switched roles, the OpTic Gaming views and everything was just kind of going down. So it's like you guys were what they wanted to see.
Yeah.
Like the OpTic, you and Scump and everyone else that was involved at the time, they wanted to see you. They obviously love the OpTic Gaming brand, and there's still going to be people that would support it. But like you guys were the face of it, and then reacquiring it back from them. Was that more? Because obviously you probably missed your brand and you wanted it back. And I was a little curious, maybe you can't answer this, but did you actually profit off of selling it and then rebuying it back? Like, you know, like sell high, buy low type of thing? Or like, 'cause I didn't know, because obviously like when they took the brand, they realized, oh, we can't do this shit because we're not Hex. And
yeah, well, the thing there's like they're a good ownership group. Like they, you know, they're seasoned businessmen. The entire Immortals group, and I have nothing negative to say about them.
Yeah.
As far as all the other stuff, like, you know, I can't talk about.
Yeah, I say, because obviously like your brand evaluation is more than just the name; it's the people behind it. So like, you know, there's a huge brand evaluation behind OpTic, but then when someone else tries to take it over, and you're not the one with the camera in the hand, then it just gets a little less interesting.
Yeah, yes. So yes to everything that you said, right? But I think OpTic, what made OpTic was the people behind OpTic, right? And the friendships that we've garnered and the relationships that we've garnered for people, you know. And if you sort of, it's like this: if I go out and buy PewDiePie's channel, and I start putting myself on those videos, and not PewDiePie, no more PewDiePie, it's just me on there, it's not gonna work, right? Like people sign on for that person, not necessarily for the channel. So, you know, it was a bit of I don't know, it was a bit of a learning period for everybody. Is the way that I would put it.
You talked about the challenger scene a little bit. Do you think there's room for brands like the UMG type events to like still throw LAN events for these amateurs, instead of it just being like solely like you have to come up in the Challengers League? Because I see it as a place where the Challengers, they do a good job, but they also have the major players to worry about as well. So if a lot more of these other LANs start coming up where they can, you know, do 50 to 100 teams or whatever, like players could still get noticed by big organizations by winning all these as well. Do you think that there's still room for other organizations to throw LAN events?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Look, if and I've said this a bunch of times, if I want to make a splash, I'm going to be different. I'm going to try to be different, so there's talking points. Right now, unfortunately, there isn't really, you know, that much to... There's too many rules around what it is, but I understand. Obviously, there's 12 teams that have put in a shit ton of cash into this thing to make it what it is. The challenger scene needs a lot of work, man. The talent's there. I mean, there's a lot of pros who are legends in this thing that are playing in challengers, and there's storylines there. The problem is that a lot of them, majority of them, are choosing not to do the right thing, which is build their own brand so that there's interest in themselves, so that people can be like, yo, this guy's competing. Challengers League, people don't give a fuck. If they care about you, they're going to go support you because it's you, no matter what it is. If I go today, if I go and sign up for a cornhole tournament where I'm fucking tossing bags and it's televised, people that fuck with me are gonna go watch that to see how I do in that, and they've never played cornhole. They just want to see Hector doing something else that they're doing, right? So it's all about that relatability and the relation that you build with your audience. That's the most a lot of people in esports, and I would say just in digital media in general, are too busy building businesses to serve an audience that doesn't exist yet. That's putting the cart before the horse. We, from the beginning, spent all of our money on the players so that we can build a relationship with the people that were watching our videos first. Then we developed the business side of it, right? Because there was no point in, why am I going to have, if there's no people to serve, there's no need to have a business, right? So for me, it's always been about building a trustworthy relationship with everybody before you can offer something additional to that.
Most recently, you just merged with the NV crew and Hastro, basically the two big guys coming together, making one thing happen. Kind of like how you're saying, you had the good medium of competition and content, and they have their whole content side now, and they've obviously been good competitors in a lot of esports throughout the years. How did that merge like come to fruition? Like you and Hastro just came together one day, and then also want to talk about the esports venue that you got. And if that's just gonna like be like the new HQ for everything to go down, or is that strictly events?
Yeah, that's strictly events. But on the merger side, look, when I got the opportunity to buy OpTic back, it came out of nowhere. I thought it was gonna take years for me to be able to do that, which is why I was side hustling on top of everything that I was doing. I was like, you know, I had already set plans in motion to buy OpTic back at some point. And when you see these crazy valuations out there, right, like hundreds of millions of dollars, you start to realize that you know, if you want to play at that level, you have to be at that level. So I saw an opportunity in a marketplace that is up and coming, that's still very much in its early stages. Cannabis, right? It's only legal in like New Mexico is the 21st state to legalize cannabis. So I'm like, man, you know, what happens when this thing becomes legal across the whole thing? Mm-hmm. And I'll fast forward there because I'm sure that's going to be a different topic. But I wanted to build a business big enough to where I would be able to buy OpTic back. So from the beginning, like it didn't sit well with me that something that I worked so hard on that was just like sort of going on a downward trajectory. So and if I could help it, I was going to do everything that I could to help it. And what help it needed was us being with it, right? Separate. I mean, even separately, right? Like if you look at Huntsman, it was great, right? We're the most popular team in Call of Duty right off the rip, which is awesome. But at the same time, there was always something missing with all of us, right? Even in my crazy mind, as I was looking 10 years down the line, and I was thinking of Seth's retirement, I said in my head, I'm like, what I'm gonna do when he tells me that he's ready to retire, I am going to sell his contract to OpTic, whoever owned it, so that he could retire with an OpTic jersey on. Mm-hmm. That was my from the beginning, like, and this is me separated from OpTic, right? Like this is me in the dark times, right? But I knew that I was going to do the same. When it was time for me to retire, I was going to join OpTic so I could retire with an OpTic jersey. So through all of that, you know, obviously things happened. COVID happened. A million things happened to make the impossible happen, which was me reacquiring OpTic. So when I got it back, immediately I'm like, all right, how do I refocus all of my efforts into just this one thing to continue to grow and to continue to bring it back to where it once was. Luckily, it didn't take long, but I needed partners, right? I couldn't afford to pay this thing by myself, right? Like we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars on a monthly basis that was coming out of my pocket on a monthly basis to make the whole thing run. Sponsors pay in quarterly installments. Sometimes some people pay in half a year installments. So it's like it's the cash flow wasn't necessarily lining up with what was going out. So I needed a partner, and to operate and to pay the league fees and all that, you know, I couldn't do it on my own. So in searching for the right partner, I came across a bunch of like interesting opportunities. Let's just say that there was like 3 up and run, runners up, and when Stro and I sat down to talk about, you know, what the future of Texas looks like, it made sense. But I see Texas more as like just like my life is there now, right? Like Scump has a house there. Like we all live in Texas. To uproot everybody again just didn't make sense for me. So I'm like, let's just merge with this team that's already there. And for me, the most attractive part about it was the investment group, right? This investment group has been a group that I always got along with. When we were raising money for Guggen, like we went to them first. Every single time that there's been a business opportunity, I would go to them first to see if they'd be interested in investing in this venture. So for me, having that sort of relationship with them and having that sort of history with them, like 3-year history with them of talking and discussing ideas and thoughts, just made that much more sense, right? Like I knew that OpTic was going to be with people that understood the space from an investment standpoint and understood what it was like to sort of see the difference, right, between brands across the industry, so that that it will make it easier for them to be okay with the way that we're sort of structuring this new thing.
All right.
So, yeah.
Is there any business ventures that either you or OpTic Gaming isn't involved in yet that you want to like venture in, or you got enough on your plate?
Yeah, no, I think from the OpTic side, there's a bunch of stuff that we aren't doing yet that we're going to be doing very soon. Mm-hmm. Me personally, I'm good. I think now that I have OpTic back, there really isn't any need for me to start up new businesses. I'm in fishing. I love fishing. Mm-hmm. I'm in golf. I don't really golf myself, but I understand YouTube, and that to me is very interesting. And this group of guys from Good Golf, I see a lot of early OpTic in them, right? Like they're just like these group of young dudes that love to create videos while playing their favorite sport, and their audience is fucking massive, massive. Like they are going to disrupt the golf space the same way that Guggen disrupted the fishing space. And right now, Guggen is the best-selling soft baits company in the United States by far. Right? They're in Dick's, we're in Academy, we are in Bass Pro Shops, and when you go look at our install, the what do you call them, the aisles of baits, like they're all fucked up, they're all like messy. You look at everybody else's baits and they're all neatly put in. Do you know why? Because people aren't rushing to fucking grab as many as they can from all the other ones. But for Guggen, because of what those boys built, everybody wants that shit. You know, they related to a young audience that was consuming content here, and not old fishing dudes. Respect to them, all fishing dudes that don't relate. You know what I mean? So obviously Pine Park is my second, you know, personal baby. You know, I've been smoking weed since I was 17 years old. I took a break here and there because of, you know, my corporate jobs, or, you know, it's space, it's positioning in our culture right now. It's still a little bit frowned upon because it's illegal. And that has to do with a lot of brainwashing, right? From big pharma, from the cotton industry, from liquor, like all of these massive sort of already built mega industries are spending a lot of advertising dollars to vilify this one very powerful plant that does all of the above. You want to feel better, you want to relieve pain, you want to feel good, you want to have a good time, you want your food to taste better, you want to be more creative, take this one thing. So why wouldn't they? You have a headache, you have cancer, you can't eat, here, take this fucking pill, this chemical right here, let me fucking put this in you, let's do this. Dude, there's a lot of money, billions of dollars that are being spent to make this thing a bad thing. Look at our prison system, man. That's not to reform humans. That is to put Mexicans, blacks in jail so that they can fucking make money off of us. Not for the betterment of the community. That's not to keep. Yeah, they turn into a gateway drug. Sure, right? All right, fine, right? Let's go down that route. Crack, right? Who put that there? It wasn't us. It was the fucking government put that shit in there. Cocaine, right? That's another massive industry that was trying to keep cannabis down. So all of that aside, all of those truths aside, like there's an industry there that's growing. It's gonna do good, right? If you look at video games, right? Like there's Adderall use, massive Adderall use, right? To be better at a game. Why? Well, because that you can get over the counter if you say that, you know, that you need it, and people do need it. It solves more than just them being able to concentrate on something, right? It solves them being able to live a normal life, interacting with people. That's a chemical. It's bad for you, right? So what do you do to combat being fucking wired off of this thing? Well, there's Xanax, man. Take some fucking Xanax. Here you go. Flip them fucking benzos all day long. That's medicine? Nah. That's fucking that's putting you in a program that people want to put you in. So for me, I get to build something again, be a part of a culture that has been fucking vilified for so long. Hippies, you tell me hippies are bad people? It makes no fucking sense, but they vilify it. Why? Because they can't control it. They can't make money. You know why it's not legal now? Because they haven't decided who's going to be the one that makes the most money off of it. The second the politicians are like, all right, you're going to get that. All right, you're going to get that. All right, cool. All right, fucking pass the bill. But they're preparing. They're building whatever it is that they need to build before they pass these fucking laws. So I'm being proactive. I'm going to get mine.
And there was a big step recently. They decriminalized it at a federal level. I guess that's probably big news for Pine Park because that just makes one bigger step or closer step to full legalization.
It's not there yet.
Like,
it has to be passed still.
Okay.
Yeah, there's still like 4 more steps. It won't happen. Like it won't happen for a while. So, you know, although it's a step in the right direction, like no one in the industry is under any fucking mentality that it's fucking happening. The doors are opening.
And I honestly agree with everything you're saying about the medicine and how it's basically if they're not basically it's just all about making money, and they're just feeding you shit that you're gonna become reliant on, or that you're gonna need it more. Or you're gonna just weed is just the answer to a lot of people's problems, and it could be obviously you don't want to overdo it because you can just become too lazy. But like you know what you're doing.
Look,
it's like that with everything. But no, weed for sure. Like I'm on the same page. I've been smoking since I was about 17 as well, and I've only had good experiences with it unless I put myself in like an uncomfortable situation where I have anxiety or some shit. But other than that, it's only helped me in a positive way.
And what you don't realize about the anxiety that it gives you is that it's not anxiety, right? It's your instincts being on high alert.
Yeah.
Right. People used to smoke weed to go hunting, not the anxiety is your body not knowing, and your brain mostly not knowing how to control all of your senses being just fucking high alert at all times. And that's if you learn to control that, you're a fucking powerful fucking person because you're elevated, right? Like what you're elevated. That's why it's called you're getting high, right? Because you're elevated. And the people that I quit smoking because I had a bad experience where it was just like fucking sensory overload. Like fucking stopped smoking for like 3 years. No bullshit. I would smoke like a little bit here and there, but yeah, it was it's because you don't know how to control your senses. But the second that you do, you're able to have, for me, I'm able to have clear, like the way that I talk when I'm like this, like I don't stutter or I don't repeat myself as much as I do when I'm smoking. It's just a stream of consciousness just being fucking delivered. Yeah. So
much. What's your preferred way to smoke?
Flower.
Okay.
Yeah, flower.
What about like wraps?
Wraps. I stopped smoking blunts because I was only smoking blunts, and although I like the little nicotine buzz that I get off of that, I think for me it's the process of breaking down the weed, looking at it, smelling it, and then rolling it. Like that whole routine is what I like to do, and then inhaling. It's like cooking, right? You can go get any steak somewhere, but nothing tastes better at home, right? Why? Well, because you know where it's coming from. You saw the process of it getting made. So you're building up this sort of appetite as you see the meat cooking, as you see your beans cooking, the rice, all this. But for me, right, obviously people eat different shit. But me rolling it, so yeah, papers now.
Papers.
Yeah.
You ever dabble with the spliffs to get a little bit of the nicotine buzz in there?
I've never had a cigarette in my life.
Okay.
Not a single cigarette in my life. Mostly because I was a fucking weirdo in high school and I wanted to be straight edge and I wanted to be fucking different. Yeah. I regret it now, right? Because I can only imagine how much more fun I would have had if I was smoking in high school. Drinking, I never drank until I was like 21. And even today, when I arrived here in Minnesota at the casino, I had my first rum and coke in like 3 months, right? I'm not a drinker, right? And I used to just, to get a little bit, more at ease. And I was knocking them back. This one rum and coke that I drank this weekend got me super buzzed, like borderline drunk. One fucking rum and coke. I used to be able to drink 13 of those motherfuckers and not feel shit, or be able to be normal, right? So, yeah, my preferred method is joints because of the process. But I recently started smoking bongs when I'm out in LA filming content, and that's fucked me up. So I get back into that fucking whoa, this is what highest. I've been operating. I haven't been fucking overly high as I have when I smoke bongs.
How many strains does Pine Park have? I feel like I've heard a few of them on podcasts, but I can't remember. We have
a bunch. So season 1 we launched with 6, which was the modified mints, both of the chems, Chem Driver, Chem Reserve. Chem Driver is my favorite ever. We had Blueberry Haze. Where am I at? Yeah, and Cookies and Cream. Fire.
What were you smoking before Pine Park?
Anything and everything that
Did you have like a preference? I guess.
Yeah.
Dispensaries. I guess there was dispensaries obviously before you started Pine Park where you could actually pick a strain. But I guess did you have some favorites?
Yeah, look, that's the beauty of what I'm going through right now, right? Because I live in a state in which I can't smoke, so I don't smoke. So every single time I get out there, I get this new sense of something, right? So I'm not as spoiled as the Californians or people who live in legal states. So I don't get to try that many different ones. But Bose put me on this strain called, what the fuck's it called? Guava Biscotti. Holy fuck. Delicious. Smells great, looks great, tastes amazing. And it gives you that right amount of fucking groove. So up until I smoked Camp Driver, I would say that Guava Biscotti was the one that I was most like interested in.
Fire. I kind of want to move into the clothing aspect. Now you talked about how you're into the designer stuff, and you're putting on your players with the foam runners recently, but overall just installing that shoe game and designer game with everybody. What are your favorite sneakers that you own in your like personal collection?
All of my Air Max ones. Air Max one to me, the only thing I wish was a little bit wider, but my favorite silhouette of all time is the AM one, Air Max ones, which is why I have the most of those. The Jordans, I didn't really. So in high school I couldn't afford Jordans, and my parents couldn't afford Jordans either. So I never had Jordans. I liked them a lot. Obviously, Jordan's my favorite athlete of all time to this day. So I couldn't afford them, and now that I can, and I can, this is what makes Jordan the best basketball player of all time. Okay, the shoes the fuck that he was playing in are not comfortable. And he was fucking playing ball in them shits. Okay, he was playing ball at a professional level in one of the most uncomfortable shoes ever. I wear my 4s. By the end of the day, my pinky's like, fuck you. How the fuck you put me in this thing? Fucking smushed all in the corner. But for me, and I was talking fashion with the 137 PM crew. I think that's what they are. The 137 PM crew yesterday when you were doing the interview with Rambo. And they asked me about fashion and streetwear, right? And I'm like, they asked me what my favorite brand of all time is, and I'm like, of all time or today? And they're like, of all time. And I'm like, oh, Mecca, right? Like Mecca is my favorite brand of all time. This actor named Marlon Wayans from the Wayans brothers always used to, and I was what the fuck was the name of the show? The Wayans brothers. Marlon always used to wear Mecca, and his style was like what I wanted to fucking like replicate. I was like 90, I was 16, 17, and Mecca was the one. And when I finally found Mecca, I was like, this is my brand. This is my favorite brand of all time. Obviously, like through growth and fashion's changing, like it sort of went away. And then below that would have been 555 Soul, which is also like a super cool brand from the 90s. And last but not least, I would have to say like Echo, but only because of the graffiti aspect of it. But then like they once they sold to Zoo York, I believe is who they sold to. Like after that, I was just like not interested in it. And they're like, well, you look fresh, and I'm like, well, I'm cheating, right? Because I grew up in the 90s. Like my high school years was when streetwear was being popularized. This when rappers were truly becoming like icons in the world, not just necessarily in this little subculture called hip hop. So I got the little bit of a leg up. Everything that I'm wearing today, I would have worn when I was in high school. So I've been wearing the same thing for over 20 years, which makes it easier for me to sort of identify what I think is cool and what I don't think is cool. Like Supreme, right? Like Supreme nowadays is like one of the most popular brands in the world. But back in my days, it was just it was a skate brand, the same way that Dime is a skate brand that's like super popular now, or not as popular as Supreme, but very popular. That I'm like, yo, this is like that sort of thing. And I skateboarded since I was in Mexico, right? Different kind of skateboarding, right? But I did, and to get Supreme back in the day, you had to go to New York. Period. So when I was watching the movie Kids or other movies from there, and I would see like a little box logo from back then, I was like, one day we're gonna be able to get that in Chicago, not in the suburbs in Chicago. There's no internet back then. You can't buy shit online. Think about that fucked up shit, right? So it's although we did grow up in a cool spot, we also didn't have the advantages that the youth nowadays has. If you want something today, you can go anywhere and get it right. You can get it delivered to your door in a week. Anything that you want, even the old shit.
So obviously, is this hoodie you're wearing, is this released, or is this just like some fancy shit?
No.
So OpTic, you've had a lot of merch drops and a lot of collabs and stuff, but you guys gonna try to do more streetwear style stuff to kind of, and are you gonna help design a lot of that because you are an artist yourself?
Yeah, everything that leaves OpTic goes through my head at the end of it. So something will come from conception. We will all of us will put eyes on it. Everybody that's in the hex quarters will look. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And then after that, I'll make the final decisions and changes, and then go from there. Right now, Omens, one of my closest friends, also the guy that created Villains, the graffiti crew that I'm in, like, he works for OpTic now too. So he was the first guy to ever design an OpTic T-shirt, and he's been helping me since 2008 with design. So yeah, I mean, yeah. And as far as street stuff goes, like, look. It's in my benefit to be able to create shit that I want to wear, and if I get to wear OpTic stuff, I'm gonna make it look as cool as possible. This hoodie is a follow-up to the gray one that we released a super limited amount of, and we're going to re-release the gray one at a bigger scale for more people to get it because they like it. This is a follow-up to that, and then there's another one that looks the same concept, but it's all black, and it's got the OpTic Gaming colors, and it's like more neon-y green. Pistachio green is what we call it in the old Graffiti Montana 94 days.
You've done a couple merch collabs, the FaZe OpTic merch collab, the RNL Hex Quarters collab. I actually got to take it off now.
Hell yeah.
The OpTic FaZe collab underneath, I got to take this off.
Yeah,
I'm getting hot anyways. But you said there's going to be an OpTic FaZe merch collab coming too, right? Or you said that on a podcast,
yeah,
right?
So Apex and I are talking about, like, this whole thing happened when I got OpTic back, and I remember clearly I was in my closet picking out clothes. The same day that we made the announcement that I reacquired, Banks calls me on FaceTime, and this motherfucker never calls me on FaceTime, right? So he'll text me, and that's all. That's our form of keeping in touch. He FaceTimed me, and I pick it up. He's like, "Yo," I was like, "What's good?" He's like, "Man, congrats." I was like, "Thank you." And then he's like, "You know what we got to do, right?" I was like, "Hell yeah." And I'm like, "Nah, I don't." In my head, I'm like, "Nah." I'm like, "Hell yeah, what?" He's like, "We got to do a fucking OpTic and FaZe collab." And I'm like, "Hell yeah." He's like, "Dude, it's like, think about it. It's like, we are the fucking first original sniping teams." He's like, "We wouldn't do this shit with any other team out there. Like, we should do it." And I was like, "Fuck yeah, let's do it." Right? Like, absolutely. I think it was only right for not only just the sniping community, right, but now whatever derived from the sniping community to do it. So we did, and this year, where Apex and I have been talking to hopefully have the follow up to that, the season 2 to that. We went to LA last time, so if we do something, I would want them to come out. Whatever's easiest. To me, it doesn't matter. Whatever the path of least resistance is what I'm to get things done is what I'm gonna take. So. Yeah.
And then the Rich and Lonely, that's like Embos and Create.
Yeah, Embos and Create.
It's kind of like a question about Embos. He used to compete, and now is like, for like OpTic wise, is he basically just like a content creator?
Yeah.
And then he has like his RNL brand. I know he makes music and other business ventures. But
yeah, look, like everybody else, right? Like I make sure that I don't force it, but I do ask if anybody has any additional side hustles, because you got to. This internet game can only give you so much in a short amount of time, and sometimes if you don't take advantage of everything that is available to you right away, you may suffer the consequences in the future. So having side hustles for like having Rich and Lonely for Bose allows him to not have to force himself to create content for himself. Like, he'll be in our podcast, he'll come to our content, but as far as like his own personal stuff, like right now I think he's just into music and into the merch. So it gave him that freedom though, right? If he didn't expand into that, he would have to force himself to turn on the camera and be funny for people, which would come easy to him. But yeah, freedom.
Speaking of music, I know you're big into the old school stuff. You don't listen to too much of the new school, if at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, you're a big Wu-Tang Clan fan.
Yeah, massive.
And they were a very powerful group. Did you take anything from the way that they operated to OpTic?
All of it.
Okay, I kind of see. Wu-Tang was a little, not before my time, but like before where I was listening to hip hop music.
Yeah.
But I have, I've learned about them a little bit as I've gone on listening to
Yeah.
music and shit. And like they seemed like a very strong group that didn't give a fuck what anybody else thought about them. Like they were gonna do this shit, and they had their way of doing it, and they're
Yeah.
not gonna let anyone tell them to change it.
Yeah, man. I mean, they changed the game. They super changed the game. And yeah, look, if from the beginning I knew, look, Wu-Tang to me was the biggest inspiration ever. They shaped my youth and they shaped my adulthood because of what we are today. From the beginning, I saw 9 dudes come together to individually work on one big brand and build that brand, and they benefit from their first, right? They're the first ones to collect a check. What I mean by that is that, Nate Shot, as he was building his brand, he was getting paid to build his brand, right? He's making money. OpTic wasn't getting any of that, but we were getting the popularity that came along with it. The same way that he benefited from our popularity, we had, like I said, 300,000 subscribers before, he even came into the picture. So we were already on a good trajectory. He helped elevate us to the next level for sure. Helped, I mean, obviously, like understated, right? What Nate has done for the space, also, obviously. But yeah, look, I saw OpTic as Wu-Tang, and I knew that each individual person was going to be their own main brand, right? If you look at Method Man being the most popular being the most popular person in Wu-Tang, like that helped Wu-Tang, right? And I saw that for Nate Shot. I'm like, Nate Shot's going to be like the Method Man, the most popular dude that we have. Boom, that's Nate Shot. And then who's the most skillful, right? Like then you're looking at either Ghostface Killah or Raekwon, right? Just lyrical, not only lyrical masterminds the way they all are, but these dudes were able to transcend above just being part of a group, right? So they benefited Wu-Tang a lot, and they benefited themselves. From the beginning, everything that I did mirrored what they did, and I don't know shit, right? There was no way for me to do research on their business practices. There was no way for me to do business or research on the way that they operated their brand, like their apparel brand. Nothing. All I saw was what they built, and that's it. I'm like, I want that. I want that. I want that. Wu Wear, we have OpTic, right? Like we have our own merch, right? So from the beginning, again, I've had an advantage that everybody that I'm competing against right now doesn't, right? I just have the advantage that I grew up in the coolest period of any history ever, period. Movies were better in the movies arguably, storylines were better in the 90s. Visual effects, obviously technology has a lot to do with it. Music, raps in the 90s, there's literally built what we're seeing today.
It's all timeless.
So yeah, timeless
doesn't
shit.
fade away in a year.
Rock and roll, punk rock, pop rock, popular music. You know what I mean? Like everything was like literally in the 90s. Fashion, 90s, dude. Like I'm telling you, I have an advantage that nobody else has. Graffiti, goddammit, right? Like it's the amount of stuff that has influenced everything, period. It's the advantage that I'll always have above everybody else, that I literally was living it for all of my life, where everybody else is trying, like everybody else is just trying to build these, the streetwear and all that stuff. Like, yeah, they're doing a great job, but they don't see it the way that I see it, right? So I have the advantage. I just didn't have the resources to do it all on my own. But now, watch. I'm not even gonna say shit. Just watch.
All right, we'll watch. One more thing. You started with stop motion graphics. I seen the MS.
Yeah, the animations. Yeah,
yeah, that's super cool. I like. Honestly, does that take a lot of time to do? And will we see more of that? And like, what's the ceiling with that? Are you trying to you gonna do like a whole like little TV show?
I would want to. Yeah, look, the amount of shit that's in here, man, that I want to do just will never happen completely. I think about this constantly. When I am 103 years old on my deathbed, like, what am I gonna be like? Damn, I should have done that. And the second that I think I'm like, I should have done that, then I immediately start working on that. And unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to do everything that I want to do in my lifetime. It just doesn't work, right? Like this, it's only me. And right now, for me, is trying to build and rebuild OpTic to get to a point to where it doesn't need solely me to be the fucking direction pointer in which this brand is going. And will we ever get there? I hope so, because if not, then I'll gladly do it for the rest of my life. Especially now that I know what it's like to not be with it, So The stop motion stuff is, again, another thing that, like, I'm a creative person. I like to see cool shit. And I was buying collectibles for my, to add onto my collection. And I happened to get to the MF Doom part of my collection. And immediately, like, I got these 3 things. And the last one came in different pieces. And I'm like, oh, shit. Well, this will look cool if it, like, all the pieces came to be together. And then I'm like, oh, but what if this fucking big dude is the one that's putting it together? And what if this MF Doom fucking boombox guy comes in and sort of gets in the way of that? And this fucking angry MF Doom fucking, like, has a problem with it. And at the end, they all came together in that. I did that. It took longer to shoot it than to edit it. Like, I landed in Minnesota, and I'm like, oh, I have an hour to fucking spare. Let me finish this thing. Maybe 30 minutes into it, I was just, like, done with it. I could have done so much more to it. It's not where I would want it to be. But again, it's just, like, one of those creative outlet things that I felt like expressing myself, and I did.
I guess I got one more question of what you posted on, I think it was Twitter. It was all your knickknacks or collectibles on the wall, and it said screenshot which one you would keep or take off this wall. Which one is your favorite? To answer it, mine would probably have been the not a flamethrower thing. I think that's probably would have been a good answer. But which one is your favorite? Because I know there's a lot more sentimental value on that shelf for you.
That and the fact that I would pick the shit that I can't get, right? If I want to go buy the Scum figurine right now, I can't. If I want to buy the Crimsix figurine, I can't. The flamethrower, you can go on eBay right now and get 3.
Facts.
You know what I mean? So for me, it was like, what can't I get? And the Scum, the figurines is number 1. I got this Twister. Twist used to is a graffiti writer that was mega fucking influential. Very early on, he created for this Neo Tokyo project. He created I think 100 figurines. Impossible to get. You can go on eBay right now, and, like, I've been searching for that shit since I saw it. But it sold. It was like 100 of them sold out. So when I came across it, I fucking scooped that shit up. I actually tweeted it out as a real FT because I bought it for like $1,300 or like $1,700, something like that. But it's now worth like $3,000, or a similar one like that is worth that. So I'm like, all right, so that one would be one also that I would want to keep. But then there's another one right next to it from Chef Ferry, Obey, that was also part of the same Neo Tokyo project that they created that you can also not get. There's only like fucking 100 of them made. So for me, it was like, what can't I get that's the most valuable thing to me? And to me, the number one obvious choice would be our figurines.
Fire. I do have one gift to give you before we head out. Can you hand me that bag right there?
Well, thank you.
I guess you might as well open it up. It's the fanciest packaging.
Do it.
I don't know if you have one of those or not, but it's not your favorite game, but it is an original Modern Warfare 2 vintage shirt.
Dude, it's not my favorite game, but it's way the fuck up there. Dang, where did you find this?
So I mean, we have like this vintage store, so we buy a lot of clothes off people, and I was searching for a Wu-Tang Clan vintage shirt for you for a few days, and I could not find it. No one has one because I mean they're hard to find. Yeah. And so then I remembered I actually had one very similar to that, and I remembered another store posted one, so I went over there, traded them some clothes. I was like, yeah, this would definitely be a good gift to give them, and I hope it fits right, and if not, it's at least a cool collectible piece. I'm guessing large or XL.
I'll tell you one thing. My wife's been trying to get me to lose some pounds. And I just love eating. You know what I mean? I'm like, I already have the girl of my dreams. I've been with her for 20 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, how much more handsome can I fucking get? Is what I tell my wife. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, but I will say is that I have a lot of like super OG Call of Duty, like early 2009, 10, 11. That are largest because it was large back then that I can't fucking wear. So lately I've been like, if there was ever a time for me to lose weight, and if there's ever anything that's gonna make me lose weight, is how I look in my favorite clothes. So, man, thank you. First of all, I actually recently started to look for vintage stuff, and I've never seen this one ever. Like, this is so, I mean, the artwork on it is cool. It's like cartoon. I see Soap McTavish. I see fucking Ghost back there. Like, this is fucking legit. Task Force 141. Doom on you, Mr. Tango. That's fucking sick, bro. Thank you so much, man.
Of course.
Appreciate that, dude.
that was my first Call of Duty, and then I ventured backwards, but that was the first one I
Yeah.
ever bought. So I found another one of those, and I have one of those as well. But it had a little paint stain on it, so I'm like, I'll give you the one that don't.
Yeah,
have
look,
the paint
I
stain.
give this one a lot of shit, but this is like if you look at the history, like Modern Warfare 2 is the one thing that set us apart. If it wouldn't have been for me going on that fucking wild ass adventure to get the Modern Warfare 2 early, I wouldn't have a 6 million view video. And I wouldn't have been on Machinima's radar, which was the thing that taught me that I could make money on the internet. And like this game did a lot for us. I mean, this as much as I say that Call of Duty 2 and Call of Duty 4 were the most influential or most pivotal moments in OpTic's history, the thing that set us on the path was this thing because it popularized it so much. And I mean, broken as it was, like it did. I mean, it brought the culture to a different level. So
Just reminded me. I wanted to start the podcast with what's going on. It's your guy, Big OpTic HECZ here at the top 5 kill cams of the week. That's why I wanted to start the podcast.
Yeah,
I completely
what up,
forgot.
Machinima? Big OpTic HECZ here, coming at you with another top 5 kill cams of the week.
Yeah.
Episode number, who the fuck knows?
Yeah, that's almost why I wanted to start.
Bro,
it.
thank you so much.
Oh yeah, and then I know you're into stickers, so I wanted to put you on with some of our stickers and stuff.
Cool.
From back in the day.
Some of mine too.
Awesome, good trade, fair trade then.
That's a villain's fucking world. Made and cut by my boy. So
Fine.
I don't know why I don't keep them in my pocket because I put them up. I don't. I just happen to have them in my pocket.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So thank you.
Yeah.
I'll take one.
Take
I'll
as
take
many.
two actually. So I don't lose these, and I know where I'm gonna put them. Well, actually, let me take.
Take as many as you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna put them on the fridge, bro.
Oh, yeah.
I already have one up there though. Didn't you send me a bunch of shit?
Did
already?
you get one?
Yeah,
I sent you one, but I never knew if you got it.
No, I did. You sent me the photo too.
Yeah, you did get it.
Yeah.
Damn, I
Send
thought
me
maybe
the-
I fucked up and you didn't get it.
No. I get. I get it. I post all of them. So
Yeah, maybe I just missed it because I remember
watching.
watching the vlogs, waiting to see because you open packages sometimes. and
Yeah.
I never seen it, so I'm like, damn, did it not get there? And then I.
No, I did. It just got to the point to where like a lot of people were sending a lot of shit, which is
Yeah.
awesome. And there's boxes that I haven't even opened.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's what I figured. Like, it could be lost in the sauce.
Nah,
it could
brother.
just be
No,
too
I
much
got-
going on.
I-
But
it's
well, yeah,
here.
there's some more for you then too.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, I appreciate you coming in. This was an iconic interview of mine. You're one of my biggest inspirations and why
Thank
I
you.
started my brand. You and Adam 22 from No Jumper, if you've heard of them.
shout out to him.
And then really the only other one that I could think of besides like Gary Vee a little bit here and there is like Nade Shop, but you basically
Yeah.
bred him. So really you're like 2 for out of the 3 guys is the reason why I wanted to become a businessman and entrepreneur. So I really appreciate you coming in. Like this really was really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Thank you, man. Well, thank you for the invite. You asked, I came.
Mm-hmm. Hey, chase your dreams. Manifest what you want.
Manifest what you want. If you're not gonna be your own cheerleader first, no one's gonna be your cheerleader. So, love thyself before you're able to allow other people to love you for who you are.
There you go.
That's why I love me, man. There's no better view than me. That's what I say. Foy said that. I stole it from him.
Perfect way to end the podcast. Make sure you subscribe, like, share this interview. If you're probably already following HECZ, but if you're not, hit the link in the description to follow him and the whole OpTic Gaming team. Tap in with us on all social medias. At Waterwave TV, we got a clothing store, studio. We sell vintage shoes, hypeware, 1521 Como Avenue Southeast, Minneapolis, Minnesota, right on Como Ave across from Piff. You know where we're at with it, but yeah, we're out. Appreciate y'all.
I made 100 bands in my sleep. I ain't even reached my peak. Leaving in the past 8 weeks. If a want smoke, keep the blick on me. I've been counting all week, counting cash, blue cheese. Might be a vegan, how I eat my greens. Made 100K in my sleep, one drink. I'ma get to the top, haven't reached my peak. If a want smoke, better roll a sweet. Boy, wanna feed, thought the world was sweet.